It is a tradition of the St. Louis County Board before every board meeting to hold a moment of silence in honor of those who protect and serve this great nation. Also recognizing those innocent victims of violence and war here and throughout the world. We'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I will turn to Clerk Chapman to please take the roll.
Commissioner Jewell.
Here.
Commissioner Boyle. Here. Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Rukavina.
Here.
Commissioner Stavro. Commissioner Yugovich.
Present.
And Chair Commissioner Nelson.
Here. Today is one of those special days that we have as county commissioners where we have an opportunity to recognize some of our long-term employees. I know some of you ladies out there started when you were like 10 or 12. I understand that before the child labor laws, but and also to recognize a number of our retirees. And I'm really, really pleased because we have a number of them here today. You know, we're up north, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Rukavina, would you like to read the retiree recognition names? And please come forward.
I can handle most of them.
You do. That's why I'm having you read them. And then I'm going to turn to Commissioner Yugovich. Would you do the years of service for us?
I could.
Here. Okay, let's do that. Commissioner Rukavina.
The retiree recognition, batting first, Sue Chops Achiever at Public Health and Human Services. Susanna Erickson. Douglas Flack. Michael, should I say the correct name, pronunciation, or Michael Jurek Yuri? Ilona Carney. Linda Klemick. Where's my friend Linda? Is she here? Michael Lopak. Cheryl Meglin. Margaret Olson. Eugene Pecha. Jeffrey Solar. David Swenson. Melody Swenson, Judith Wahlberg, and batting cleanup, of course, Keith Young.
Should we get a picture with the retirees first?
Yes.
Because it's a pretty big group. And then we'll do the employee recognition, and then I have a mayor here ready to give us a welcome to Spirit City. But we're going to do the employee groups first. Did we have a couple out front, outside? Any retirees outside? Hiding on us?
Stand next to the chair.
I'm next to you and Lopak.
I gotta go fast.
All right. I can't deal. If I deal, I won't. You guys see me? Oh, I deal, I won't get out. Hold on a second. You all witnessed that workers' comp injury.
Always going to bat for me.
All right. I'm not sure. I'm not going to hide.
I'm trying to make sure I can see everybody. Okay, everybody look this way. I'll take a couple of these. All right, I'm just good. Look over at these folks.
Did anybody get one with the rabbit ears on Young? I still have my elbow key.
To the Public Works Committee. Did Dale operate that camera?
Not very good.
You take care of the roads, Noah. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Michael, they're all yours.
Okay, for the years of recognition, for 25 years, we have Mary Anderson out of Planning. We have Timothy I out of Public Works. Karen Brunn out of Environmental Services. Charlene Meisner out of the Attorney's Office. Jeff Volodkovich out of the Attorney's Office. Tammy Skorich out of the Attorney's Office. Donna Vukolich, Public Health and Human Services. Dwayne Meyer from Public Works, and Donna Sokolowski from Public Health and Human Services.
Again, most of these ladies started when they were 10 or 11. 25, 35, 40 years of service. Incredible. Thank you. All right, everybody say Chisholm.
Chisholm, there you go. Could not smile saying that.
Okay.
All right, thank you all.
On your way out, we do have
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to let
Your big schedule this week.
That's gonna be a tough one.
Get the rain.
All right. Once a year, we typically come to this hall to hold our county board meeting. And it isn't very often that I have an opportunity to catch the mayor of this fair city, but I was able to lasso him for this meeting. Mayor Scalco.
Okay, I'll make it short and whatever, but yeah, it's kind of a neat experience, I know. I've done this for a few years. I think the county has been doing this. I don't know how long, coming to outlying areas, and it's a neat thing. And I look here and the people I know, I got some good friendships here. I started with Keith. I think we began the same time in 2003, so it's been a few years. I'm looking across from me, and I've known Tom a lot longer than that, a dear friend for many years, many years. I've gotten to know Mike real well. When he was Mayor Chisholm, Mark, I know well, so it's the others I don't know as well, but it's just an honor that you come out to the outlying areas here and, we can kind of showcase our town a little bit. We're proud of Mountain Iron, what we've been able to do in Mountain Iron and what we continue, hopefully, to do in Mountain Iron. So just welcome you, have a great meeting, and it's an honor for us to have you here. So thank you for being here. We'll see. Have a good meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Scalco.
Take care.
There we go. Next up, and this is not on your agenda, folks, but we have someone here from the St. Louis County Ag Society who has come here today, and I think she's bearing some gifts for us from the St. Louis County Fair, and when she's done, I have a little something for her. Okay, so we always like surprises, Betty. Okay, so
Thank you for the time. We appreciate it. I am also here to let you all know, those of you who are not aware of it, that I am also retiring. I will be done on Halloween. I don't have to go out to trick or treat this year. And I wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to meet the person who is taking over my position. This is Karen McNeil. She has been shadowing me since November 1st of last year, so she is well trained. She is going to do an excellent job, and I know she's looking forward to working with you guys, and I think you're going to be very happy working with her. I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank you guys for all the support you have given to the fair over the years. We've had a lot of issues. They started back in 2000 when we had to move the fair and the fairgrounds. It was a huge challenge. We never would have met that challenge successfully if it hadn't been for the support of the county as well as the public and the state and other entities. A couple of years ago, you helped us start a new program with some special funding. The purpose of the funding was to get kids outside and moving and to have some larger horse events. And with those funds, we put together what we call the SLC Summer Series, which obviously is the St. Louis County Summer Series. It has grown. It covers 3 fairgrounds in Barris, Proctor, and the Chisholm Fairgrounds. And there's 4 different age groups from peewees all the way up to intermediate. It's up to 17 or up to 18. And there's 3 different events, and they earn ribbons and prize money at each event, and then they accumulate points. So if they participate at all 3 shows, at the end of the season, there's another ribbon, and of course it's a bigger ribbon because they're a season winner, and a larger cash award. The remainder of the money is split out between the Embarrass Fair, the South St. Louis County Fair in Proctor, the Southwest St. Louis County Fair in Floodwood, and us, and they're sent paperwork and told that it is to be used to develop activities for children to get them outside and moving at the fair. And that is coming along nicely also. This year we were very fortunate. What we wanted to do, about a month before the fair, met a gentleman from the Army National Guard, the recruiter out of Chisholm. They had half of what we needed. And they were more than willing to bring it. And as a result, we had a lot more outside activity, and it freed up some of the money. And we said, instead of giving away food tickets and dollars to the kids this year, we would give them something they could take home, they could wear, and it would also help promote the program. So we had these T-shirts designed. I don't know if you can see them or not. It says former couch potato on the front. And on the back, it shows the couch potato doing 4 different activities, and it says outside and moving at the St. Louis County Fair. So I know that these aren't going to fit all of you, but hopefully you know someone they will fit. Mike, can I give these to you, and will you see that each of the county commissioners gets one?
Yes.
It's just a little thank you from us for the special funding and for all the support that you've given over the years.
I noticed that there was one on a tractor. Was that taking a Commissioner Nelson on his tractor?
She was trying to bring an extra large for Michael, an extra short for Tommy.
They're all extra large, but I'm looking around and
she was
thinking,
looking
some
for
will,
one.
some won't.
She was looking for one that might have had something to do with Wisconsin, but we couldn't find any good pictures. So,
Are you from Wisconsin?
commissioners, I have a surprise for Betty, too. Okay?
My son-in-law's from Wisconsin. It's a constant battle of the Vikings and the
There
Packers.
you go. There you go.
And that's all I have to say, other than to tell you it has been a pleasure working with you, getting to know you. And again, on behalf of myself and the Fair Board, and of course Karen, thank you so much for all you've done for us.
Betty, thank you.
Stay put. Don't go moving on me. Commissioner Yugovich, you're up first, and then I'll...
Thank you,
I really
Chair
want to
Nelson.
be here.
I've had the pleasure of working with Betty since 2001, when I was on the Chisholm City Council and moved through the mayor's position. Betty's been outstanding. The fair has been run precisely. The fair is always a great event, and it's because of the time you put into it. I've had someone work for Betty that's very close to me, loved working for Betty. You knew it had to get done, but Betty was great to work for, and you hear all kinds of good things from all the people that have been involved with the fair. It has been my honor to work with you, because if I asked something of Betty, she did it. She did everything she could to get it done. She was always so willing to work, and I know Karen's going to be the same way, because she is a go-getter, and it's someone that we are going to feel very comfortable with, knowing that she's in charge after Betty has been gone, well, another week? So, yeah.
Week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think I have 5 days.
So congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you, Commissioner Yugovich. Betty's been working her so hard, she's got one wing and a sling, okay? Commissioners, I will tell you that Betty and I go back Oh, gosh, again, she started selling ads to me in business when she was like 12, okay? We go back about 40 years, 38 to 40 years,
Maybe 30
okay?
or 30.
Yeah.
35, I'll go 35,
Anyhow,
but I'm
a
not,
long ways. But folks, I don't know that anybody truly understands what Betty, along with the board, Brian Toivola and the board, pulled off. Imagine having your facility that you had been at for 75, 80, 85 years. And a little history on the fair. The fair started out in Duluth. Duluth didn't want it anymore. And the fair then moved to Hibbing. And it's been there, the St. Louis County Fair has been there ever since. But imagine having all of those buildings, all of that tradition taken away from you. And then having to set up in tents. Okay, in tents, folks, over near Iron World. And this all happened before my time on the board. It goes back an awfully long ways. But, that fair board and Betty, with Betty's leadership, persevered. And today, and a couple of the projects that she mentioned, folks, that children's barn that we have up at the St. Louis County Fairgrounds in Chisholm is the nicest children's barn in the state of Minnesota. There's nobody that's even close. And it was done with $60,000 in forest rec money, Commissioner Rukavina, back then, along with a ton of volunteer labor, our Iron Range building trades, and I was out there pouring concrete with the building trades and with others as this building came to be. People donated the siding, they donated literally everything to make that happen. But the fair now has 2 new buildings, then a project that I'm not really sure that Director Hayden will ever forgive me for. But we went and through some very good work from Senator Tomasoni, and I believe Representative Rukavina was still on board down there then, when we got the money some bonding money, state bonding money, to put in the water and sewer, so they have state-of-the-art facilities in terms of that. And early next year, folks, you're going to hear us talking about the fact that we have a bunch of homeless chickens and homeless rabbits up there.
cattle and sheep are a little hard pressed too.
We also have some cattle and sheep. I was getting to that, but the cattle and sheep need a little bit bigger building, okay? And hopefully this board continues that partnership with this group. But today is about Betty, and I want to read a plaque that this board is going to be presenting to you. And it's in recognition of your dedicated service and leadership as Executive Director of the St. Louis County Fair. For 25 years, you have led the 5 best days of summer for a grand total of 125 best days, preceded, I might add, by the 5 worst days of summer. Betty will tell you about that if you ask her. But creating family fun, opportunities for youth, and wonderful memories for all who have attended. Betty? Good stuff. Okay.
Thank you very
We got to
much.
get a picture, though. Dana always hollers at me when we don't stand for a picture. Commissioners, come on. Come on up here.
And other elected officials.
We got to do this, okay? We got to do this. What's that? Yeah, this time we're small enough for it. All right.
No. Commissioner Nelson, we would be remiss if we didn't mention how she refereed that move from Hibbing to the center of the universe.
To the center of the universe, yes.
It was a little controversy at the time, but Betty did it. We need her to negotiate, I think, on a national or international way.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members, for indulging me in that little surprise for Betty. And I apologize, I could have turned to other commissioners there too, I guess but we've had all the fun we can have for one day. So now we got to get to work. At this time, citizens will be allowed, oh, I'm sorry, whoa, stop, Keith. Is Kelly Sather here? There we go. Patrick, will you please join Kelly at the podium? I think she's got a presentation. Okay. Patrick is the chair, Commissioner Boyle, I'm sorry. Please join Kelly at the podium. Patrick is the chair, of course, of our Health and Human Services. Kelly, begin.
I'm honored to have the opportunity to be here to recognize Melissa Sakala for the work that she does with Public Health and Human Services. Melissa is approaching her 13th year working for St. Louis County, having been in the initial intervention unit, adult protection, and most recently, the adult mental health unit, where she works on pre-commitment screenings. Melissa's role has always been around protection and caring for some of our most vulnerable individuals. It is most fitting that these experiences led her to embrace the person-centered work that our adult services has focused on for the past 3 years. From the beginning, Melissa clearly saw the positive impact that this could have with the services we provide, the culture in our agency, and in our community. Melissa took the lead in becoming our first person-centered trainer in St. Louis County and just recently completed the training to become a person-centered coaches trainer. She was recently selected to train person-centered practices to targeted case managers throughout the state, having been one of 12 individuals selected statewide to do this training for adult mental health in the state. It is Melissa's genuineness and dedication that has allowed her to shine in these areas. We thank you for your commitment and tenacity to this project and to work to improve the service delivery to all that we serve.
Thank you very much. I'm honored and very much appreciate this award, but I'd also like to make it very clear I am not alone in this. We have an entire division working on person-centered practices and a lot of individuals who are working as a group to make sure our division is spreading this and teaching the entire agency from management on down so that we change the culture of public health and human services so that we're supporting each other as well as the people we support in the community so that we help people to have the lives that they want. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Boyle.
Thank you. I just want to say this is nearing the end of what Commissioner Nelson thought up of the recognition to so many different divisions of our services and what we do as a county. And it's been a great privilege, I think, to hear stories of the folks that are in the trenches and day-by-day basis. So I just wanted to commend Commissioner Nelson on that. And with this division, with Kelly, what she said, this is only a division that's going to get more important. As we well know, we are all aging, and this county is aging in itself, and this is going to be so much more important as we were just talking, Lene and I, in the corner before coming in, how it's only become more of use to help our most vulnerable adults. We talk so much about our younger kids that need the help, but we're also in a day and age where it's going to be that much more important with our adults to stay in their homes as long as they can and to get the help and services they need. So, thank you. We doing a picture? Or?
One more picture.
And Linnea, you and your team don't let that. We really go. Besides this one. The what?
No. Lene has something. I have some people that don't want to come up, and I'm just not even, we're not going to take a picture until they come on. Come on. Let's go. We're just simply not taking it until you come up here. Okay. Excuse me. See, it took a little shaming, but we got it done.
Everybody's.
Say Chisholm.
I want to stand up.
Sorry, one more.
One more.
It is. You should have seen the stuff I was walking through. It says, unbelievable. You could have snowshoes. I don't believe it.
Really?
Oh, it's fun.
There's a great article on Sunday's paper about
Check yourself.
What's that?
All right. Now I'm back sticking to my script here. At this time, citizens will be allowed to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. And for items that are on the board agenda or on the committee of the whole, citizens will be allowed to address the board at the time a motion is on the floor. Is there anyone here today who cares to address the board on items not on the agenda? I have one signed up and one extra hand. The one that is signed up is Dennis Frazier. Dennis?
Hello, my name is Dennis Frazier. I'm a resident of St. Louis County. I reside in Zim. I come before the board today, and I thank you for this opportunity to talk about the situation regarding a county board member who has used county resources to run for a higher office. I'm just going to go through some brief points here that has been talked about in the past. For this matter to be drug on and not addressed is ridiculous. You honored some county employees here for their service, some retirees, some still with the county. They've all had to be accountable and not use county resources for their personal stuff. The situation we have here with a county board member using county resources for political office is bad for St. Louis County. This is a waste of resources to drag this situation out, as there is possibility of litigation, I understand, coming down the pike. The solution is quite simple: to release the emails and the information about use of county resources, and to be transparent, as any county employee would have to be for those that work in the trenches. We need and deserve honesty and transparency in St. Louis County, and I urge you, as a citizen, to go forward to pursue transparency and honesty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Is there anyone else who cares to address the board on items not on the agenda? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners, Board. My name is Michael Lopak, not to be confused with Michael Lopak here that retired here from the county. I live in at 10143 South Clear Lake Road, which is in Great Scott Township. And I'm here to request some funding or some sort of response to the internet that's provided in the township area. During our township meeting on October 1st, Great Scott Township Board meeting, there was a request that somebody come forward and bring the idea of requesting some funds or some sort of development that can help provide internet to the broadband service to the Great Scott Township. It's important for economics, it's important for health reasons, it's important for just our residents to keep in touch with the internet and the world as it is. Right now, we had a survey done or information provided by NEO, which is was provided through a Blandon grant, and they came up and said that they would provide fiber optics to the township. However, we're probably looking at about 2 to 3 to 4 years, 5 years possibly coming down as far as providing fiber optics. Fiber optics would provide 1,000 megapixels per second to the for internet. However, at a cost of about $3,000 to for if you're living in Buell or Mountain Iron, to $9,000 if you're in the outlying area. I think it's important to provide some sort of service for the area. And other options involve wireless fiber optics to a tower, or another satellite information. Right now I have satellite internet, and I'm getting at about 5 megapixels per second, which is far below the standard FCC rating for broadband minimum, which is at 25 megapixels. So it's important for economics, it's important for all sorts of different reasons. Communications, basically I have cell phone service at one bar at my cabin, and basically that's my residence right now. I'm retired. I was a college professor at Northland Community College, Hibbing Community College, Hennepin Technical College. I'm also an architect. I'm working on projects throughout the region, and I need internet service, and there's people that would be living at home, and being able to have access to the internet would provide an economic boost. So I'm looking for the county moving up the ladder of legislation here, going from the township to the county and maybe to the state. So I would hope that at some place down the future you're going to add it to your legislative concerns for the year 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone else here today who cares to address the board on items that are not on the agenda? Seeing none, we do, it being 9:40 or thereabouts, we do have a public hearing pursuant to Resolution 18-585 adopted October 9th, 2018, to solicit public input prior to considering a final plat approval for North Star Lakes, and that's in North Star Township. And I would open that public hearing and turn to the clerk to read the introduction.
This public hearing is being conducted pursuant to applicable Minnesota statutes and the standing rules of the county board. A copy of the standing rules is available upon request. A formal record will be made of the proceedings. Accordingly, we request that all speakers sign in and state your name and address at the beginning of your testimony. Both verbal and documentary evidence will be accepted by the board. The order for the hearing will be as follows. First, St. Louis County Administration will make the initial presentation. Second, representatives of other governmental entities may appear and give testimony. Third, supporters of the proposed action may appear and give testimony. Fourth, opponents of the proposed action may appear and give testimony. And lastly, other comments or evidence from the public. Commissioners may question witnesses at the end of their testimony or at the end of all testimony.
Thank you, Clerk Chapman. I would turn to Director Hayden from Administration to make the initial presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Barbara Hayden, Director of Planning and Economic Development. As background for this plat proposal, in June, the county board established a formal policy for which we could go for review and approval for a process for platting lease lots, and we used the format that was similar to what the county used for their lease lots for establishing this platting process. Minnesota Power has leased parcels on land on Alden, Little Alden, and Spring Lake, which they have leased for many years. These leased parcels are considered lots of record under the St. Louis County zoning ordinance. Minnesota Power has desired to formally plat these leased parcels and has submitted a final plat application, which is attached to your board letter. It's Minnesota Power's intent then to work with these leaseholders to eventually sell these parcels to them. There are 69 lots that are in the plat. All of these lots conform to the lot of record, and after Minnesota Power went through this, they worked really hard to increase the size of the footprint of those lease lots so that we can comply with both our zoning ordinance and our septic, and they work closely with both departments to achieve that. Also, earlier in October, the board approved access across tax forfeited lands, easements to these parcels, and one of those was a condition that there be a public access. In your packet is the lot that Minnesota Power has designated. For that public asset, it's not part of the plat, so it's not shown on the plat maps, but it is included in your board packet. We do have Jim Atkinson here from Minnesota Power if the board has any specific questions. So following the public hearing, it's our recommendation that the board grant final approval to the plat of North Star Lakes in North Star Township.
Thank you, Director Hayden. Any questions for Director Hayden at this point, Commissioners? Seeing none. Supporters of the proposed action may appear and give testimony. Are there any supporters of the proposed action who wish to appear and give testimony? Seeing none. Opponents of the proposed action may appear and give testimony. Are there any opponents here today? Seeing none. Are there any other comments or evidence from the public at this point? Seeing none. I'm going to give Mr. Atkinson an opportunity if he cares to, or if commissioners have any questions for him at this point. If there are no questions of him, we can keep moving. Seeing none, I would ask to close the public hearing for a motion.
Second.
Motion by commissioners to move and support that move of closing the public hearing. All those in favor signify by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. I apologize, Commissioner Boyle and Commissioner Jewell. I normally say that, but the cold is still hanging in there with me. We do have the resolution before you. Commissioner Rukavina, do you care to move that? Moved by Commissioner Rukavina. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Olson. Discussion. Commissioners, I just want to take just a second to thank our planning department, Mary Anderson, who, by the way, is retiring too, and I'm going to miss her so much, but just saying, okay? And also for Minnesota Power and Jim for the incredible amount of work to get this done. This is truly going to be a benefit to all parties involved. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
Commissioners, you have the consent agenda before you.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Jewell, supported by Commissioner Boyle. Any items on the consent agenda that commissioners want to bring down for further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Commissioners, we have nothing under the regular agenda. We will recess this board meeting and reconvene as the committee of the whole. The reason for the recess, Commissioners, is we have one item, especially a very important item, a disaster declaration and aid for the city of Duluth that we need to get done in a timely fashion. So that's the reason we're going board here today, just in case anybody hadn't gone out and checked that, but that's what we're up to. So we'll take a 5-minute break and reconvene as committee of the whole at 17 after the hour. And again, thank you for that, those kind of words. We've done that.
Here. Commissioner Boyle. Here. Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Rukavina. Here. Commissioner Stauber. Commissioner Yugovich. Present. And Chair Commissioner Nelson.
Here, I would like to mention to this board, and I was remiss in not doing so at the board meeting, Commissioner Stauber is out this morning with a family matter that he's attending to, so that's why he is not here this morning. Commissioners, you have the consent agenda before you.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Boyle.
Second.
Supported by Commissioner Yugovich. Commissioners, are there items on the consent agenda you care to pull down for further discussion? Commissioner Rukavina.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull down item number 6, 18-466.
Okay. Commissioners, any other items that you care to bring down for further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda with the removal of item number 6 signify by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Let's Commissioner Olson, if you're ready, we'll go right to item number 6, if that's all right with you. Commissioner Olson. We are in committee, folks, so. Yep.
So before us, we have board letter number 18-466, a memorandum of understanding for the following procedure with the Sheriff's Office and Jail Division. I would move it.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Nelson. Administration.
Thank you. The action before the board is a request to approve an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with Ashley, bargaining unit representing security staff in the Sheriff's Office, the Jail Division. And this is related to ongoing dialogue and formalizing an agreement regarding a modification of the call-up procedure for our corrections officers and sergeants. With the permission of the chair, I'll have Director Gottschalk talk through the background and explain what the memorandum means.
Director
Gottschalk.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner Olson, Commissioners. The St. Louis County Sheriff's Department Jail Division has had a long-standing operating procedure for holding staff over from the previous shift in the event of a call-in. There's mandatory staffing levels at the county jail facilities. So as such, when somebody's not able to report to work, there needs to be an operating procedure to ensure that the staffing level is maintained. For a number of years, or actually for many years, the standard work schedule, the shift has been an 8.5-hour workday at the county jail. And staff would be held over for a second shift from like the afternoon shift to the evening shift or the morning shift to the afternoon shift. The jail division wanted to ensure its compliance with the Department of Corrections operating procedures to not exceed 16.5-hour days for 2 consecutive days. So they reduced the holdover from 8.5 hours a second shift to a 4-hour holdover. At the beginning of this year, the jail division and the AFSCME bargaining unit that represents the jail correction officers and the sergeants negotiated a 12.5-hour work shift. So going back to the purpose of reducing the holdover from 16.5 hours, if you're working a 12.5-hour shift and you have a 4-hour holdover, you're back to the 16.5 hours. The operating procedures, it's based on seniority, actually inverse seniority, so the least senior person who is on shift is the person who's held over. These are forced holdovers. And unfortunately, it targets a number of individuals who have the least amount of seniority, and there's a lot of burnout. And so all of the parties agreed to reduce the 4-hour holdover to 2 hours. This is not contract language. This is an operating procedure. But we thought it would be best to bring it to the board just because it's a long-standing operating practice. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Commissioners? Commissioner Covina.
Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm certainly not opposed to what this board letter is trying to accomplish. I just kind of had a question about the overtime in general because I can't remember if we hired 4 extra sheriffs at the jail or 6.
Director Gottschalk.
Director Gottschalk, do you remember
answer
what the number was?
Chair, Commissioner Olson, board members, the county board adopted a resolution to allow additional positions to be created. These are for the purpose of hiring individuals, getting through the field training academy, and then as positions that were more full-time opened up, the people would be kind of worked into the shifts. Unfortunately, we have a very high level of turnover at the jail. This is not unique to St. Louis County. This is fairly common throughout the state of Minnesota. The sheriff, the jail administrator, and their leadership team have been working very diligently to try to keep these positions filled. But I can tell you in the last 2 years, we've had approximately 20 positions in total turnover at the jail division. The average tenure of those 20 individuals is under a year and a half. So we've had a hard time retaining new hires, I would imagine, particularly. It could be for a number of reasons. It could be because it's not the work that they thought it would be. There could have been other contributing factors that include the reason for bringing this forward today. Sometimes it's not the perfect work-life balance for certain family situations. So we're trying to do everything we can to make it reasonable, the overtime, and that's one of the reasons why we're bringing forward this resolution today.
Madam Chair, so was the number 4 or 6? I couldn't remember.
Chair, Commissioner Olson, Commissioner Rukavina, and Commissioners, I believe it was 6 positions.
And members, if I recall correctly, the purpose was to try to help this overtime situation, and I can understand burnout and everything else on it. I guess my question then is, were those 6 positions have never been incorporated into the FTE at the sheriff's department?
Chair, Commissioner Olson, Commissioner Rukavina, and Commissioners, they have been added as 0.0 FTEs. So the attempt is to add people into the hiring queue. Unfortunately, we just can't keep up with the turnover fast enough to really make any use of them.
Okay, I just wanted to understand, and the explanation makes sense, so hopefully this will solve that problem, but, maybe it won't.
Thanks, Commissioner Rubina. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Joel.
Madam Chair, so the person who's working, I assume what is happening is you don't have somebody coming in or you don't have enough coverage, right? That's why somebody's held over, and they have no say in whether or not they're held over, and they don't know ahead of time?
Chair, Commissioner Olson, Commissioner Jewell, Commissioners, that is correct. It's typically the person who is scheduled on the next shift, for whatever reason, is not able to work their shift, and so they have a process that they use to hold somebody over from the previous shift or the current shift.
So, if I can follow, so is that because we have a lot of people not showing up? I mean, what drives the fact, I worked in a lot of places where we did shift work, and I can remember very few occasions in which the person who was supposed to show up didn't show up.
Chair, Commissioner Olson, Commissioner Jewell, Commissioners, it's most often an emergency situation where somebody is called in, perhaps sick or personal leave for whatever reason. They have a fairly large facility to run, and so it only takes 1 or 2 people to call in on a shift in order for this to be a real, uncomfortable situation for the rest of the staff, and they do have to maintain that minimum staffing ratio. So it's typically a call-in because of sick leave or an unforeseen or unanticipated vacant shift.
Okay.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Seeing none, we'll move this to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Back to you, Chair, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair of Public Safety and Corrections Committee, Commissioner Olson. The next item of business is to establish a public hearing for suspension revocation of liquor licenses for property tax non-payment for Tuesday, November 13th, 2018, at 9:40 a.m., St. Louis County Courthouse in Duluth, Minnesota. And is there someone who would care to move that?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Yugovich.
Second.
Supported by Commissioner Jewell. This is a annual set-aside that we do every year. Typically, property taxes are paid by this point, but if not, then those establishments will be up in front of us. All those in favor of setting the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Next item of business is under the Finance and Budget Committee. I've asked Commissioner Boyle to please take that.
Thank you, Chair. First up, we have tobacco products licensure application for Fail Township, approving the renewal of tobacco license for At Your Convenience in Fail Township. I'll move it. Support. Second. Commissioner Rukavina. Commissioner Nelson.
Mr. Chair, I obviously, this is the business that my bride and I own out in Fail Township, and I will need to recluse myself from this vote. I have a direct financial interest in this business.
Mr. Chair, I think you'll lose money selling tobacco, so we'll go along with this because you aren't making any money.
Any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
One abstention. Thank you.
Motion passed. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Boyle, for filling in there in that one. The next items in front of us, I will turn to the Chair of our Central Management and Intergovernmental Committee, Chair Commissioner Joe.
I have two items under this. The first is a reappointment to the Arrowhead Library System Board of Directors of Virginia Katz. I would move it. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Olson, and I'd look to administration to frame it.
Well, as was noted by the chair, commissioners, the board is requested to reappoint Virginia Katz to the Arrowhead Library System Board of Directors. This is a request of Executive Director Jim Wycombe, Mayor Wycombe, to fill the position for a term that is expiring this December. He's on top of his succession planning, and the current appointee has indicated an expressed desire to serve another term. So the term would be a 3-year term January 1st and through the end of December 2021. Okay. And again, it's a reappointment.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments? I would just say that Virginia Katz is a long-time supporter of the Duluth Library and a huge supporter of libraries in general, and a great addition to this. And her family, in multiple ways, has supported libraries for years. So, without further ado, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. The second item is a position reallocation and transfer of one FTE information specialist 2 to an IT project and business analyst. I would move it. Is there a second? Support. Supported by Commissioner Boyle. Look to administration.
Thank you, the Chair and Commissioners. The action before the board is to authorize the reallocation of the vacant position currently in Info Spec 2 in the Sheriff's Office to that of a project and business analyst position in the IT department. The action is required because this is a change in pay grade of more than 2 grades. We bring these to the board. It is not an increase in complement in total. That remains the same. That's the formal action of the board. The background story at the high level, either Deputy Administrator Pritzker or Director Batchel can talk to it a bit more if there are questions. But we've been utilizing a vendor for services to support and help manage our technology on a number of fronts within the Sheriff's Office. And as we've progressed and looked at the increasing responsibility, the demands from a technology standpoint, we've concluded that if ultimately it may be more cost effective and it's going to be more service effective to incorporate an IT presence in the Sheriff's Office to help manage this data and this technology, which is ever evolving, and will be more responsive to the Sheriff and his team in that regard. So this is effectively creating a project business analyst, a role that we use to support other areas of the county, and dedicating that position to supporting the Sheriff's Office. So the background is we'll no longer have a vendor-supplied staffing. We will have in-house resources. It will be based out of IT rather than in the Sheriff's Office. And we think this, at least at the nominal level of $15,000 from a staff standpoint, we think this will more than pay dividends and provide higher and better service for this very important part of our area in terms of responsibilities as a county with respect to the Sheriff's Office. So the requirement of the board is to approve the position reallocation. The real story is we've reprocessed or done our business improvement process review, and we feel that this is the best way to serve the Sheriff's Office and our residents.
Okay. Any discussion, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Back to you, Chair Nelson.
Thank you, Chair of Central Management and Intergovernmental Committee, Chair Commissioner Jewell. I'll now turn to our Chair of Environment and Natural Resources Committee, Chair Commissioner Rukavina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I have 2 items. One deals with the sale of tax forfeited land to Evelyn. I think it's pretty straightforward and something we've discussed here. So I don't know if Commissioner Gray wants to comment on it or not. But we tore down with money from the county, the old site there for the Holiday Inn, and I think Commissioner Nelson and myself and Commissioner Jugovich probably even is old enough to remember how bustling that facility was. And, you know, all of a sudden, the company that owned it decided not to put any more money into the hotel. Louis Parlanti, of course, we got to give him credit for managing and running that place for so many years. It's an excellent site for development for the city of Evlith, and they want the property. I noticed Jackie Monahan Junick was here, but
She had a conflict at 10:30, but she did want the board to be aware, and she had spoken with you and I, that she was here to support the project and is very appreciative of the county's efforts and leadership on this.
And I think Evlith's excited about it, and I think Commissioner Nelson and all of us are excited about it also. So with that, are there any questions? I'll move it. No, Commissioner Nelson moves it, I'll second it.
Thank you.
Any other questions on it at all? If not, we're getting a good chunk of money. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That prevails. And the second item is the purchasing of trees, which we do, and we only had one bid. So I don't know, Administrator Gray, if you want to talk about it, but this is something we do every year in trying to buy trees to plant or cut over areas. And so
I'll move it,
it's pretty simplistic.
I'll move it, Mr. Chair.
Second Nelson moves it. Mr. Jewell, Commissioner Jewell seconds it. And do you have anything to comment?
Chairman and Commissioners, the only thing I would say is that PRT USA, I think, has been since purchased by a Michigan-based firm, so they're getting a little bit closer. I think that's the chronology. And we do contract locally, and to confirm Commissioner Ricavina's comments, there were no local bidders. So, but this has been an ongoing program. We target seedling plantings and try to rejuvenate our holdings all the time. And this is the dollar value bid required that we bring it to the board.
Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner Ricavina. And Administrator Gray is correct. There's been a lot of movement in the containerized tree industry. The Itasca Nursery, which is right near Clay Boswell over in Grand Rapids or Cohasset, was recently purchased by a Nebraska company. And now I understand that somehow this Nebraska company is involved with this Michigan takeover as well. So we may get back to buying containers from Itasca Nursery yet, but it'll be through a process. I just want to point out, and I would invite any board member who wanted to come and see some of the work that our county folks have been doing. I have taken Commissioner Jugovich and Commissioner Olson both out there to show them some of the work that's being done, not only by a private forester, which happens to be myself and my family, but by the state, and then you can drive immediately back and see what the county is doing. And I got to tell you, the county seedlings and the county work, as Commissioner Olson and Jugovich witnessed, it's night and day difference between what we're doing on our lands and what the state is doing. So I think these efforts need to be recognized and really truly appreciated. They're raising the trees for, really our grandchildren are being planted today. And it's pretty incredible. I mean, the bud capping work and I try to do my part by thinning the deer herd so that they don't eat all the trees. And but it is incredible when they plant in an area. And I want to mention this because I think it's really, really important. Two young men from this area did all of the releasing on all of the county lands back there. And I believe that's the first time we've had a local vendor doing these smaller pieces. And Commissioner Ricavina, it was two young men from Pike that came down, and incredible the amount of work they did in a matter of a week's time to release what was essentially 40 acres of land by taking down all the competing species. And it's just nice to see our local folks getting involved. And again, like I said, these two young men every day. And the reason I know about it is because we allow them access through our properties to get back to these properties, and it's just cool to watch it. We've got sites all over St. Louis County that are very, very similar, and as is witnessed by a million plus trees that we're putting in the ground. I think that's something that as we get to planting season, I'm going to be asking our communications person to somehow put a highlight on that, because I don't think that there's a lot of people in this county that realize the amount of work that is done out there, and what's happening really for the health of our forest into the future. Thank you, Chair Commissioner Rukavina.
And members, my understanding is the seedlings are knee-high on me, which still doesn't solve by other species that are around it, so. Commissioner Jewell.
I just suggest that at some time it might be useful for us to invite the Land Department and their colleagues in the Forest, U.S. Forest Service and the DNR to talk about their collaborative efforts. And it's not called One Lands, I'm trying to think what it's called, but they talk about it at the quarterly meetings. And they're being more and more successful in working together to do things, as opposed to things in which there's kind of a so-and-so is doing better than so-and-so, or whatever. And a lot of this has to do with consolidating land so that it can be cut at the same time, which really makes sense. Way more efficient and more effective. So it'd be interesting to invite them in. They talk about it at these meetings, and everybody is pretty excited about the efforts that are going forward.
Well, Commissioner Jewell, I go to the meetings. I didn't make the last one, but I'm not that enthused about the cooperation as you are, because it seems that the U.S. Forest Service has a different interpretation of collaboration than what I see in the dictionary. And, you know, the fact that after how many years, land in the boundary waters, these land exchanges that were supposed to take place outside the boundary waters with exchanging county land with both DNR and the federal government just never happens. It's, you know.
As I might point out, that's the reason for inviting them.
Yes. Well, but Commissioner, I might not be here when that happens, and I wish I would have been here to kind of bring up the past and hopefully the future. Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Rukavina. I think Commissioner Jewell's point is really relevant when you talk about species selection. And that's one of the places where they're trying to maintain that diversity, that biodiversity within the forest, by planting the right trees to keep that mix. And something that I'm really excited about, you know, our climate is changing a little bit, and anybody that doesn't recognize that is probably not paying a lot of attention. But we're actually looking at some hardwood species now, planting some oak and black walnut and some of those other things in some of our southern forest projects. And I'm excited as heck about that, because I've experimented with oak, and I have to tell you, 15 years I've got some 6-inch oak in diameter, and that's pretty impressive for this area. So again, our climate is changing somewhat, and some of these hardwood species have a real tremendous value. It's a tail end value, obviously, but I do respect the efforts of us and working with the others and keeping that diversity. And I will tell you, Commissioner Jewell, though, I do not mind kicking the state's butt when it comes to production and what we do in the forest, because we really make them look pretty silly in terms of board foot cut and in terms of what we're getting done out in the forest. And I think it's an example. I hope that others are going to start following us instead of the other way around. Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Rukavina.
Commissioner Nelson, you bring up a good point, that when I moved out to Pike, my cousin moved right behind me, and the previous owner had planted some oak trees from down by Brainerd. They were this big around. Those oak trees right now are probably 1.5 feet in diameter and have a crown on them like you would not believe. They, for some reason, grow great there, and it's a uprise in the land in Pike, and bring up a very good point on species. And glad to hear you agree with me on climate change.
Commissioner,
I need you to talk to Trump, President Trump again.
Chair Commissioner Rukavina, you will find that we have much more in common than we have differences, okay? Thank you.
Let me argue that point. Commissioner Jugovic, did you have your hand up there for a minute?
No.
Oh. Okay, any other comments on 475? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, and that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Rukavina, Chair of Environment and Natural Resources. Folks, about a week ago, I was invited to do the welcome at a purchasing agent conference in Duluth. And I tried to pawn it off on you, Vice Chair, but you were actually out on county business, so I couldn't do that. But I really enjoyed it, and I will tell you that I learn things every time I sit down with our employees, and what I learned was that we have a camera sitting on the Northland building that is pointed at the construction on the new GSC North, okay? And today, I've asked that we get an opportunity to see some of that, and I want to give credit to Donna, and please help me out, Brian, Christie from our purchasing department. If I had her energy, I'd run this world, okay? She is just incredible, but she brought this forward, and I said, Christy, can we get that? And she bounced around and kind of like Tigger and said, you bet we can, and she's been working with Brian. Here's what we have to do, though, okay? Because this room does not have the capability. We're going to go in the next room, and you know, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just recess the board for this, because then we don't have to worry about tagging along our cameras and everything. And the only business that we are conducting is we are going to review a tape, and then we'll come back in here for any discussion on the tape that we're reviewing. So with that, Brian, you got it set up for us?
I have it set up, yes.
Lead the way. Tony, I know we got Tony here, and we got others here from our building.
Commissioner, just to note that
Kevin.
the tape is just shows the chronology of the build-out, so it's just documenting and they've condensed it so that it documents kind of the phases of the progress of the building of the...
So you cheated and looked at it first?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I just for the record, so we know what we're looking at, not a tape of something, but very specifically.
Oh, yeah, it's a tape just of the building itself. There's no, it's just video.
But I have not looked at it.
Okay, let's go see it. Commissioners, for your information, a copy of the tape that we just saw on the construction progress on the Northland, the new GSC North, immediately adjacent to the Northland building, will be included in the tape that goes out to the general public. And I apologize that we weren't able to show it in this room, otherwise it would have been more fluid. Tony, please come forward if you would, because I know there's a couple of questions for you. I think one of them, Commissioner Jugovic had a question for you for sure.
Make one little thing, follow up on what
Commissioner Nelson just said. We have on the website for our department's website, there's also some ongoing snapshots of the progress of the building too. So for the public, it's available if they kind of want to watch. There's still shots, but they're.
Where's that available at, Tony? Here's your commercial time.
St. Louis County website, and just go under property management, and it's under the Virginia Government Services Center project.
Dana, can we make that easier for people to find, or try and get a link so we can? Sounds a little complicated coming from Tony, but if people want to see it, I want to make sure they can see it if there's people that are interested in it. I think they did that when they built the bridge out here, and it was incredible, the amount of hits that it got. People were watching the progress every day. I have Commissioner Yugovich and Commissioner Boyle in that order.
Thank you, Chair Nelson. For those of us that haven't had the opportunity, I've been by, but not very recently. Can you give us an update on the status of the building in Cook?
Building in Cook, right now, it appears they have found some more soil issues that they're dealing with. So I was up there last week, and it's disappointing that they found more bad soils, because there were still trucks hauling out fatty clay out of the site. So I think that they're going to be somewhat delayed on that site because of the challenges of that site itself. Evidently, the soil borings didn't reveal everything that they had hoped the soil borings would reveal, but I think that they're putting in some footings for some of the structures, but they're running into some more soil problems that they're correcting right now. So they'll be somewhat delayed.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Boyle.
Tony, a guess on when both these buildings will be open?
I'll take a stab at that. Yeah, the plan is that they will be open by probably October of next year, because we have to, as you know, we have to get all of the, at least for the Northland building, the Government Services Center, we have to get it completely done so we can move all the people out. And then we're working with SHPO right now about the deconstruction, and so I think we have final plans with them and a final approval, which took a long time. And so when that building is done, we're going to save one wall, which is a common wall to the City Hall Sallyport, and that wall will have a mural on it. And the mural depicts the historic value of the Northland building and of the region. So this all took time. So what we're going to do is going to take that building down, and with any luck, we'll have the parking lot gravelled before the winter of, what would it be, 2020 and 2021. But we're not sure if we can get the bituminous in. If the project goes well, we should be done earlier than October. But this October this year has been a nightmare for any construction, and it's actually put us probably about 2 weeks behind. But 2 weeks is not. It's not concerning, because it's easy to make that up some other place. But it's going well, so I think we're going to meet our schedule pretty good. They're going to close it up. We're going to get it heated for the winter so the trades can all keep going.
Director Mancuso, I had someone ask me a very interesting question. Maybe you can answer it. Somebody asked how many miles of cable, wiring and cable, would be pulled inside of that building. Somebody's obviously thinking about the communication capabilities, et cetera, in that building. Did that show up anyplace?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think just in the GSC in downtown Duluth, for the Cat 5, I think it was about 6 miles.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see just how much inside of that building there is. Commissioner Riccoviano.
Hi, Mr. Chair. I thought you were going to ask how many miles of copper. Anything. I happened to be in Mark St. Lawrence's office the day that flooring came in, that precast flooring. Members, we have to give a shout out to our good building trades organized labor folks, because to watch them work there was unbelievable, like clockwork. And I think, Commissioner, there were 9, because they were only like 3 feet wide, and they were stacked, I think, 3 high and 1 in the middle. So there might have been 10 on each one of those. And the way they just worked there, those, I don't know if they were iron workers, if they were laborers, what they were, but to work under that crane and move those the way they moved them, it was just unbelievable. And one truck would come in, there were 3 trucks lined up in that area, and another one up by the post office pulled over to the side. And the way they just moved those slabs, which were huge, almost the length of those semi-beds, was, to me, just unbelievable, and just showed the value of having good quality workers up here that could do that work.
Thank you, Commissioner Rukavina. I also want to give a shout out to the employees in the Northland Building, the City of Virginia, and all of the people who work downtown. I have to tell you, I think we've had, in my office, I can't speak to how many Tony has gotten, I've literally had 2 complaints since they started. 2. It's just unheard of. Everybody is sucking it up and saying, this is going to get done, and it's going to be really nice when it's done. It's a little bit inconvenient right now, but I got to tell you, the employees have been great. The staging has been beautiful because they come and they go, and they come and they go, and so they're not clogging up downtown. It's been a well-oiled machine, and the main thing, our customers are able to access that building and still get everything done. That building is still doing everything that it did before the construction. And I got to say, it's worked much, much better, and a lot of that credit also goes to Tony Mancuso and his crew, because they anticipated a lot of these problems, and so hats off to you and your group and all of the people that are cooperating in getting this thing done. I am so enthused to get the roof on that by Thanksgiving, folks. That's what they're talking. We'll have a roof on it. So can we get another update on that when the roof is on? Because after that, we're not going to see anything. Okay?
You have a board meeting inside there if you want to.
Yeah, no. We probably will, but that'll happen. That'll happen after it is ready to go. And Commissioner Rukavina, if I'm fortunate enough to be around, you will get an invite to that ribbon cutting. Okay?
I hope, if I'm fortunate enough to be around.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Tony. All right, Commissioners, that concludes our committee of the whole meeting. Clerk Chapman, how many items do we have total on the that would come back to the board agenda?
Actually, Chair Nelson, Commissioners, there's one item on the board agenda. It's a consent agenda, which consists of all the items that were passed unanimously at the committee.
Just your gas station will be the only one.
What's that?
Just the gas station will be the only one.
No, because that doesn't go separate.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so all we have in front of us then is the consent agenda that we just approved at committee of the whole.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Boyle, supported by
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jewell. I'm sorry.
Before we move on, are we going to have a comment period at the end of the meeting?
We can finish this board and then have our comment period at the end of board if that's, I guess, how's this if I ask commissioners if that's all right with commissioners? Because we usually do that right at the end, and today, because we're going board committee board, okay? So we have that consent agenda before us, all of the items we just approved at the committee of the whole. Are there any items that commissioners would care to bring down for further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, we are at board now. All of those in favor of the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. That concludes the St. Louis County Board meeting. We are at that point in our meeting where commissioner discussion items are the last thing that we do today. Is there anybody that cares to bring something up? Commissioner Rukavina.
Well, Mr. Chair, about 6 weeks ago, we had the issue of the Commissioner Stauber's emails come up at our September 11th meeting, I believe it was. And, I, at the time, expressed my feelings that I did not agree with our elected county attorney, and that I didn't think this issue was going to go away. And now the issue is still here with us, and so I'm only one of 10 elected officials in the county. We have the county board, and then we have our attorney, our sheriff, and our esteemed auditor. But, you know, my suggestion again is Attorney Rubin, you made the interpretation, and that's up to you to make that, and you are one of the 10 elected officials. So when we have questions by the press, I don't see, and I've mentioned this before, how Ms. Kazel or Mr. Gray should be involved in the comments. It should be our elected attorney who made the decision, or at least one of us. And you know my interpretation of this, and you know, my only alternative that I disagree is to get an attorney. I can't afford one, but I guess I do have a question of our attorney, and that is, if this goes to court or to trial, like the Minneapolis Tribune and the Duluth News Tribune indicated it might, do you have an estimate of what it would cost to defend this? And if so, I'm assuming that it will come out of your regular budget.
Thank you, Commissioner Rukavina. I'll give you time to think about that a little bit. Is there any other discussion items? While he's coming up with it.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I can respond.
Okay.
Number one, you need to understand this, Commissioner Rukavina. I don't know what it's going to cost if someone wants to take the county to court. Don't know, okay? Number two, I give advice to the administration as to what the law is. The administration presents the position of the county. It's not my personal opinion. I give advice as to what the law is, and then the county, through the administrator, has made a decision. And we, as I've stated before, and as we stated before, at the administrative hearing, we submitted a 7-page letter brief of the law that supports the current position of the county. Period.
Thank you, Attorney Rubin. Any other discussion items for today?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I could, and again, you know, you have the expertise. You are elected by the people of St. Louis County. You made the interpretation. I saw Mr. Campanero's 6-page, I thought it was, rationale behind to the Department of Administration. But again, I tried to get the board to weigh in on this. I didn't get any support, just my own. But again, I don't think it's really the responsibility of unelected people on this board to be commenting to the press that don't have the expertise that you have or your department has. And that's why I brought it up 6 weeks ago, and I'm bringing it up again today.
Thank you, Commissioner Rukavina. The question has been asked and answered, I believe. Motion to adjourn is in order. Moved by Commissioner Boyle, supported by Commissioner Yugovich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. We stand adjourned.